Wow, okay, guys, here we go. I have to be honest, I'm a little sister shook, sister scared about this video because you guys went in on these comments. Like, I was not expecting you guys to get so crazy. I never in my life pictured myself answering such personal questions on camera for anyone to see. But here we are. You guys seem to be really into this type of content, and I feel like it's helpful because every time I share something like this, I get so many comments saying how it makes them feel normal, how we've got flies in the house. It's like fly season or something. There's like been flies in my house for the past few weeks, and I take the trash out every day. So no, it's not my fault. The flies are just out right now. I feel like these videos are helpful and therapeutic kind of because a lot of people on YouTube don't really do this. I don't think a lot of people answer like super deep questions about marriage, and especially not about sex. Most family channels are not going to dive into that area just because like a lot of people like to put on a facade. I mean, there I said it, a lot of people like their marriage and life and everything to look much better than it actually is. So I'm going to answer as many questions as I can. I'm going to put on a timer for 30 minutes, and I'm going to answer as many questions as I can before the timer runs out, because I would be sitting here talking to you guys forever if I didn't put the timer on. And I feel like the time's going to go by so quick. I'm probably only going to get to a few questions because I'm going to want to elaborate on them. I know you guys like this type of video, so I'm thinking of maybe making it into like doing one of these a month. Let me know in the comments if that's something that you're interested in seeing, but let's go. All right, I posted on Instagram. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, this is where I will usually post a photo so that you guys can ask me questions, because I kind of scroll through just based on like the top comments, like the ones that get the most likes, because those are clearly the ones that you guys want to hear the answer to the most. It just gives me a good idea of which questions are more popular. So if you guys are interested, when I do my next Q&A, that's gonna be where I'm posting for you guys to ask questions. And my voice is off because I am kind of sick right now. I think I'm getting a cold or something, so that is why I don't sound like myself. But let's go ahead and start this timer here. 30 minutes. All right, let's just jump into it. God, I'm scared. You guys got wild on these. Okay. All right. Okay, so Lauren Self Blogs, which I love her vlogs, but her Instagram name is Lauren Self Blogs. But she has a YouTube channel called Lauren Self. I think that's the name of it, but she is like amazing. I'm pretty much obsessed with her. She commented, "When do you think you'll actively try for baby number 3?" So you guys are gonna think that I'm so crazy, but like I'm ready. Like I'm ready to get pregnant whenever my body is ready. I know that in September I had a miscarriage, so my body just isn't really ready. It's kind of weird for me because I got pregnant on my first try with Skyla, and then I got pregnant on my first try with Adeline. And then I just figured, like, because I had never had a miscarriage before, I just figured like I didn't think anything would happen. And then I had a miscarriage. So then I thought, well, everybody says that you are super fertile after you have a miscarriage. So I was just like for sure that I'd get pregnant in October, and I didn't. I got my period this past weekend, and it was just kind of shocking that it didn't happen right away like it did the other 2 times. So whenever my body is ready to get pregnant, I'm ready. Okay, so this one got a lot of attention. The username is _s.ylv. It says, there's like 3 questions in here, so I have to separate them out. Do you feel dependent on your husband, assuming he is financing most of your family's lifestyle while you take care of the kids? In parentheses, it says no judging with a heart. So I do think this is coming from a good place. I don't think that this is a backhanded comment. I think a lot of people replied back to this person. But I don't know, I mean, I don't think that this is meant to be anything negative in any way. That doesn't apply to us. I'm not dependent on Nick. And he's not financing most of our family's lifestyle while I take care of the kids. Let me see what the second question was. Then the second question is, does this make you give in more easily or try to keep him happy? I commented back, and as a joke I said, I don't know, this would be a great question for Nick. Let me ask him, just because like I said, the question just doesn't apply to us. Give in easily or try to keep him happy. He doesn't really do anything that makes me feel like I have to give in to him or try to keep him happy. Of course, I try to keep Nick happy because I love him and I want him to be happy in our marriage and in our family unit. I want Nick to be happy, so I try to keep him happy because I love him. It has nothing to do with money. I understand how that can be a situation, how that could be a situation in some relationships if you're, I don't know, maybe staying in the relationship to stay secure or something like that. You feel like you have to make them happy, but that isn't my like motivating factor for keeping him happy, and I sure hope it's not his motivating factor for keeping me happy. I hope Nick feels the same way. This next one is, the username is Magizzle44. Has money ever been an issue in your marriage? Do you keep your own income separate or together? Has money ever been an issue? I wouldn't say that money has ever been an issue, but in the beginning of our marriage, I did not make very much money. I was bringing in an income in the beginning of our marriage because I have a ranch. It's a hunting ranch that I inherited from my dad, and I do make money from that. Now we're able to just keep all of that money in the ranch account, use it for ranch expenses, and then build up, just builds up as savings. We don't have to dip into that, luckily. But in the beginning, I depended a lot on my ranch income. And then I had an Etsy shop. So I was working really hard, but I wasn't bringing, I was bringing in money, but it wasn't like wild money. Nick was still definitely the breadwinner by far. That never like has caused an issue. Like Nick has never tried to control me as far as like how I spend money, anything like that. He's never like blown up on me for a big purchase or if I am not budgeting or something like that. Nick is so easygoing and he's so chill. If Nick ever has an issue with anything, he brings it up like, hey, just so you know, we need to spend a little bit less money this month. Like whenever we were moving to Georgia and then whenever we were moving to here, it was a big financial hit on us to move twice in, what was it? Twice in 1 year or something like that. The first time his company paid to move us, but the second time they didn't because Nick was buying into his own company here in Austin. So we had to pay for our move. What else did we have to pay for? Nick was buying into a company, so he had to get out a business loan. And then at the same time, he bought a truck. And then we were looking for a new house. Also, when we sold our house in Georgia, we just had to get out of it quick. So after everything was said and done with like selling our house in Georgia, it was pretty much a wash because we had to pay the realtor, and we basically listed the house for just enough to cover the expenses. I think we may have even taken a hit. So in those times, there have been times when Nick has said like, okay, this month we need to be a little bit more, like hold back a little bit more because we're gonna have a lot of expenses coming up. But it's never caused like major issues to where we're just at each other's throats, thank God, because that would be awful. But we're also very blessed, and I feel like money is one of the major, I think there's like 10 things or something. What do they call it? It's either 5 or 10 things that are like the major stressors on a relationship. One of them is moving, and I know one of them is finances. So I would say the moving in itself stressed us in our marriage more than finances ever have, because like I said, we've both just been very blessed to where we haven't really been in a big pickle. And that's not to say that that could never happen, because it could happen to anybody. But so far we've been okay in that sense. Oh, the second part of that was, do you keep your own income separate or together? So the way that it works is, this is kind of complicated, but we have a joint account. Then Nick obviously has all of his business accounts separate, and then I have my business account separate. And then each month I get W-2'd from my company, and Nick gets however Nick gets paid from his company. So taxes are taken out of what we each make first and foremost, then expenses, and then each month we each have like a set amount that goes into our joint account, and then that's where we spend on personal expenses, is through our joint account, and bills and things like that. Okay, Sarah Jean 867 says, how many times a week do you try to have relations? Just being honest. This reminds me of Sex and the City, when they're kind of all comparing how much they all each have sex. Honestly, I feel like Nick and I have sex probably at least 3 times a week. And that's, I am not being fake when I say that. But my kids are both in their own rooms. I don't have a newborn. I'm not breastfeeding anymore. I have my body back. I'm not pregnant. So I would say on average about 3 times a week, but usually it's more than that. Miss Saran Witch says, who is the one to initiate things, argument and intimacy? Okay, so with arguments, who initiates arguments? I probably initiate arguments way more than Nick, but that's not to say that he doesn't ever initiate them, because he does. Intimacy, Nick usually is always the one to initiate intimacy, but I would say I probably initiate maybe 25% of the time, but I think that's normal. How did your marriage change after first and second kids? Was it different? Yeah, like it changed a ton. Because having kids puts major stress on a relationship, like major stress on a relationship, because you each have a different idea of how like to parent, and you don't have a lot of time for each other anymore, because after you have kids, your time together, like date nights and stuff like that, like we're trying to do a date night once a month, like that's realistic for us. So you kind of, it's easy to lose a connection, and it's also easy to get really stressed out really easily. Because I remember after having Skyla, we were both so stressed out all the time when she would get fussy and cry. And Skyla is fussy a lot. Like, she freaks out a lot, and it would put a stress on anybody. Like the tantrums and the fussiness, especially in public, it just, both of us, like, it gives us anxiety. And then it makes you more tense, and then you're way more likely to like lash out or like go off about something that you would never have before kids. And then after the second one is born, just maximize that by 10. Nisa Rose says, what is you and Nick's love language? Nick's love language is the touch. What is it? Physical touch or whatever. And then mine is words of affirmation. Queen Mitchell 98 said, how do you keep it spicy with kids? LMAO, asking for a friend. So we don't always keep it spicy, because it's hard to keep it spicy. Like, you can't expect every single time that you have sex that it's going to be spicy and fireworks and crazy, because that's just not like typical. But I would say like once a month, probably, if that, maybe once every 2 months, I'll go out of my way to put something really sexy on from Victoria's Secret, and we'll play like some sort of sex game. Or, sorry, this is like, girl, you shouldn't, like, mom, if you're watching this, like, you should have clicked off a long time ago, but you guys asked, so I'm gonna answer the question because maybe this could be helpful. Play some sort of like sex game, light candles, do the music, and like try to look extra sexy, and, you know, try and like prolong an intimate experience rather than just the typical, like, you know, marriage quickie, I guess. Oh my God, sorry, but Shirley Spink says, has there ever been a time when you've seriously thought about calling it quits? I legit cannot see myself without Nick. Like, there is no, like, it gives me freaking intense anxiety to even think about not having Nick in my life. That's probably like literal worst case scenario, other than losing a child or something bad happening to one of my kids. Like, not being with Nick is just not an option. So if I ever have gotten mad and like lashed out or said something like, I'm done with you, or something crazy like that, never ever deep down in my heart have I actually felt that I would ever seriously do that, because I know what it's like having divorced parents, and it's actual hell. Stacy Lindion says, how do you make time for Nick being a mom of 2 young kids? I'm a new mom, and by the end of the day, I find myself so exhausted and I want to sleep once I put her down for the night, LOL. Yeah, I feel like that a lot. And I think that obviously that's completely normal. But I try really hard to not say no to Nick a lot. Of course, there are nights when I'm just exhausted. I just really do not want to be touched. But I don't let that become like a habit of being like, no, not tonight, no, not tonight. Because there are some nights that I do just want to like go to sleep and just not even talk to anybody. But I think that it can become a pattern really quickly. And so you just have to break the cycle and like understand that. I mean, this is different for everybody, but for me, I want Nick to be happy and I want him to understand that he's important to me. So sometimes I just make the time. I just make it happen. No matter if I'm feeling super exhausted, I just don't let it become a pattern, and I will make sure that if I have realized that I've been saying no to him a lot or turning him away a lot, I make sure to nip it in the bud, because I feel like that's a really quick way to put your marriage into a downward spiral. But that's just me. That's just my feelings on that. I think that men need to feel appreciated and loved, and I feel like they need attention just like we do. And to them, having someone turn them away all the time is probably an equivalent for us of having absolutely no attention from our husband, because we all know how it feels when they're all so busy with something else that you feel like you're never getting any attention, emotional or otherwise, and it's like the crappiest feeling. And men, especially Nick, when his love language is physical touch, I like have to remind myself of that and say like, this is what makes him feel connected to me, and just do it. Gabby Polidu says, it all seems very vanilla. Who's the experimental one? Love you guys. My favorite channel. God bless your family. Well, it seems vanilla probably because, I mean, most people don't put their freak flag out in the streets, right? I mean, especially because my YouTube channel is a family channel. It's not that type of channel. And I guess our relationship is vanilla for the most part, but I would say it's like 75% vanilla. Who's the experimental one? I would say Nick is probably more, but that doesn't mean that I don't have a wild hair every once in a while, you know what I'm saying? Tejo, 2018, said, how do you maintain trust and security when he's out of town or going to bachelor events with the boys? Oh man. So fast forward to me in the beginning of our relationship or when we were married, I would be so anxious anytime he went out of town, whether it was even for work or for a bachelor party or just a trip with the boys. I would be so freaked out. During Nick's bachelor party, I was so scared leading up to it. I don't know why I didn't trust him. Looking back, that was so stupid, because back in the beginning of your relationship is when you're the most obsessed with each other. So I don't know why I was so freakish about it. But I think it's a common feeling that a lot of women have. But like when Zell, don't do that, please. Zell's like licking her butt while I'm like trying to talk about this. It's like, calm it down, calm it down, calm it down. So when Nick goes to these bachelor parties and whatever events he goes to on the weekends, he doesn't really travel for work anymore, but he has gone on like 2 bachelor parties and a birthday, like a birthday party. I was supposed to go to the birthday party, and then I got pregnant, so I didn't want to go because they were all going to be drinking and partying, and it's not fun to be like the sober one that can't party with everyone. So I canceled my trip, and then I ended up having a miscarriage, but I was supposed to go to that one. So the bachelor parties, first of all, at the 30th birthday party, that was all like his best friend who was fiance threw the party, and like everyone had their girlfriends there or their fiancés or their wives there. It wasn't like a boys trip. So I mean, that one like was that. The bachelor parties, one of them was at Lake of the Ozarks, and they were literally like not even going out to the bars. And maybe they were, I don't really know because I didn't ask questions, but they were kind of doing just like a bro thing at the lake. And then what was the other one? I forgot. Maybe he's only been on one bachelor party recently. I don't remember, but usually when he's out of town, I don't like staying alone, first of all. So if he's out of town, I usually have my mom come stay with me or a friend, or I go on a little trip with the girls because I am paranoid of staying alone. I just don't do it. So my mind is usually like always occupied when he's out of town. But on top of that, like, of course we're all human. So if there's somebody attractive hitting on you, like, yes, there's someone attractive hitting on you. You're human. You're going to have some sort of reaction to that one way or another. But whether or not you're stupid enough to like act on it and cheat on your spouse, that is a whole nother level. Like, Nick is not dumb enough to jeopardize our family unit, our marriage, and our like breaking our family apart, because he knows that it would break our family completely. Because someone who's come from a past of being cheated on, and there's been cheating that's happened in my family, I have no tolerance for it. And Nick knows that that would destroy our family. So I'm sure that when there are attractive women hitting on Nick, he eats it up. Of course he does. I feel like a lot of men would. I see a hot guy from across the room every once in a while and check him out too. I mean, I feel like we're only human. I feel like that's normal. If you don't have to agree with me on that. But I would never cross the line. There's like a line, and maybe you walk up to the line, and sometimes you shouldn't, but sometimes maybe you do. But crossing the line is a whole other thing. And I don't think that Nick would do that to us. I just don't. The green love. Is there anything that turns you off about Nick? Turns me off like sexually? No, nothing. Turns me off in general. Nick can get very in his head about work and only be thinking about work a lot of the time, including the weekends, and he can be totally absent, even if we're in the same room, in the same bed, just doing totally mundane things. Sometimes he's not even there, because in his mind, he's still in work mode, because Nick is such a baller businessman. He's like so successful and so smart, and he is killing it in his career, but sometimes he can't turn that off. And I sometimes feel like I have a back seat in his mind because of that. But when you buy into a company, he's making big moves right now, and I just understand that sometimes you have to be all in. And when I express though that I'm feeling like I have a back seat, he automatically, or immediately, not automatically, he immediately like makes it a point to be more attentive to me. So at least he cares. Casey Calhoun said, how do you find the mental energy to be intimate after having children? So that goes back to a previous question that I already answered. But after having children, for me, some women have children and their body goes like straight back to normal. But for me, like after I became much more self-conscious of my body after having kids. Are we still in the time limit here? Oh, we've got 7 minutes left. Whoa. I have become very self-conscious after having children. After having Skyla, for one, because I gained so much weight. 2, because your breasts completely change. And especially if you breastfeed, your nipples just change totally. You just don't feel, for me, I'm saying me, I didn't feel as sexy. Like now that I've had 2 kids, my stomach sags down. And there are times that like we've been having sex and I look down at my stomach and I'm like so sad about it, you know? I try not to be super vain, but that's hard sometimes. But I just don't look anything like I did before having kids. And so I have to remind myself that like Nick doesn't care. Like all he cares about is like having the connection and being intimate with me. He's not thinking about my sagging belly or my crazy nips or anything like that. Okay, sorry, my card filled up. But what I was saying is like Nick is not thinking about, and I can guarantee you, make sure this frame is framed up. It's getting hot in here probably because this is an intense topic. Let me turn I had to turn the timer, pause it for a minute. So I can guarantee your husband isn't thinking about your insecurities or your flaws at all. He's just happy to be having sex with you. But the mental energy, I guess, like I just have to turn that off when I am mentally like talking myself out of it or feeling down on myself. Sometimes I just have to turn that voice in my head off, and just, it doesn't always happen, but that's what I try to do. The Little Stinks said, what are your insecurities? You're a very good looking couple. I'd like to know how you handle insecurities and what advice you would give your girls for their future relationships. So Nick's insecurities, I don't really know what Nick's insecurities are, so I'm not going to speak for him. But mine are just that now that I'm nearing my 30s, I'm not like young and, like I said after the last question, I'm not like young and tight and like perfect skin anymore, and just like, you know, I don't look the way that I used to look. And men, as they get older, a lot of them get more attractive, and then the more successful they are, the more women are after them. And so I feel like women, I was talking about this with a friend the other day, but women, like men, when they age, they become more desirable. And when women age, they become less desirable to some, not to everybody, but to some. And I totally am a believer that you can age gracefully and beautifully and be attractive at any age, 100%. And if your husband or partner loves you, they're going to see your beauty no matter what age you are, weight, however many wrinkles you have, etc., because they love you. But it's natural for us to have some insecurities, and one of my insecurities are me getting older, and the women that are attractive to Nick are younger and younger. So, I mean, of course, I wish I could stay young forever. So, is that an answer? I don't know, maybe that's an answer. Tyler Racker said, lights on or off? I don't have a preference, I really don't care. If the lights are off, I feel less insecure, but I've never said no lights on or even really given it a second thought if the lights were on or if it was in broad daylight, just because we've been married for going on 4 years. He's seen everything. Megan Rusbaros said, how did you know that you were both ready to start a family? Any regrets with starting when you did, or do you ever wish you waited longer? That's a good question. We decided that we were ready to have kids. Well, it was me. I'm the one that was like, I'm ready to have kids. I want babies. I just like could not wait to start a family and get pregnant and have babies. And now that we're having 3 kids, I did want to have all my kids before I was 30. I don't think that's going to happen now. But I felt like 25 was a good age to start for me personally. And Nick at first was like scared, but when Skyla was born, I think he was scared all throughout the pregnancy too, but when Skyla was born, he was like overjoyed. She is his whole world, and so is Adeline, but Skyla's our firstborn, so, you know, and she's older and more talkative and more active with Nick. I think dads get more connected to the kids as they get older, whereas Adeline, she's just now starting to become like interactive and stuff. So Nick and Skyla are like 2 peas in a pod. And do I wish that we would have waited longer? Not really. No, I don't have any regrets. Andrea Felice said, who initiates more, and does it bother you if you initiate more? So I answered this previously. It's Nick that initiates more. And does it bother me if I initiate more? No, I kind of like it sometimes because it makes me feel, I don't know. I like to initiate sometimes because it's not all the time. And Nick loves it because it's like a surprise to him, since it's not like super often, and he loves it. So no, it doesn't bother me. It would bother me, however, if I was the one initiating all the time and Nick never was. If he never was trying to have sex with me, I'd be very concerned and I'd have my feelings hurt. I'd be very upset. Like, straight up, I would. Samo Linero said, Did it take you a while to jump back into wife mode when you first became a mom? Or how did you hit the romance running? How did you keep romance alive with 2 littles? There was like no romance after Skyla. After having Skyla, I felt so, because when you're very first, right after you have your baby and you're breastfeeding, for me, like I had no interest in sex for probably at least 3 months, because everything is just super sensitive, and like you're nursing this baby and the baby's on you all the time. So no, I did not hit the romance running, and especially not after Skyla. After Adeline, I got back into it quicker because it wasn't like such uncharted territory for me. I wasn't like so stressed out like I was after Skyla. after I had Skyla, I was just in like this intense mom mode where every ounce of my being was poured into mom, like the title of mom. Wife took the back seat, taking care of myself took the back seat. And there will be people who think that, well, that's the way that it should be, but I'm a firm believer that you have to still take care of yourself, and especially your marriage. And so I learned my lesson after making that mistake after Skyla. But I think it's totally normal right after having babies if you're not yourself, and like sometimes it can take a long time to feel back to yourself. I still don't feel back to myself, honestly. And I'm almost a year postpartum. Emily Cummin 20 has another question about self-body image confidence, which is what I just talked about in a previous question. But one of the things that she said was that she ended up with a lot of stretch marks on her stomach, and she's self-conscious of them in her mum tum. And like I said, I feel the same way. I don't have stretch marks on my stomach, but my skin is not tight anymore. You can tell that it's stretched out. My belly button is saggy. I do have stretch marks on my legs. I have stretch marks on my boobs, and my boobs are just like two deflated sandbags. Like, yeah, of course I struggle with it. It would be crazy to deny that I struggle with that, because I do. But sometimes I just have to tell myself, like, you just can't think about it. You just can't let it like get under your skin. And I know that's easier said than done. But for me, like, I see it, and then I'm like, yeah, well, that looks like that. And then I just have to move on, because if I dwell on it, I just can't dwell on it. But after I'm done having kids, these are going to get a refurbishment. Kaylin Nabholes 15 said, who is the first to apologize? Usually Nick, but sometimes me, but usually Nick. BLM_Molly94. How do you find the energy to get ready with two babies? Well, I either wake up before the girls wake up to get ready, or I will wait until it's nap time for Adeline to get ready, and then Skyla will watch her iPad so that I can get ready, or she'll color or do something. Skyla's getting much more self-sufficient now. So it's with Skyla's age, I feel like it's way easier. With Adeline, no, she always needs your undivided attention. So if Adeline's napping, I'll wait for like her first nap of the day. Or if it's a day that I have a nanny, so if it's a day that I have help, as soon as she gets here, I'll just go and take a shower and get ready, which is the best. Daniel Liarva says, how do you and Nick decide who pays for what expenses in your home, and how your salaries from both your jobs are spent in regards to mortgage, utilities, groceries, and kid expenses? So, it all just comes out of our joint account. So like I said, we each get paid from our companies into one joint account, one joint checking account goes into that, and then we pay all of our bills from one account. So like, I know some people pay for different bills separately. So like, he would pay for the rent, and I would pay for electric or something like that. But it's not, we pay everything together. Are there any secrets that you have to make things better when it gets too hard sometimes? Like, how do y'all get over arguments and issues? Secrets to make things better. Time, like, okay, so I know a lot of people say don't go to bed angry, but that's, to me, complete BS, because if you're having an argument at the end of the night, you're both freaking exhausted, like, no, sometimes just sleep on it. If you're really, really that pissed at each other and it's right before bed, one of you go sleep in the guest room and then talk about it tomorrow, because time, for us at least, if we're in a huge argument and Nick will go and like do something on his own, whether it's like go work out or go take Skyla outside to play, just having like even 15 minutes apart gives you like a breather, and then you can see the actual argument clearly, and then you can come back and have a more civil conversations. Because sometimes if an argument gets really heated, all you're doing is just throwing crap back at each other, and none of it even makes sense, and then you're going to bring up old things that are irrelevant to the argument. So never go to bed angry, a load of crap. Go to bed, and then tomorrow, I promise you'll both feel way better about it, and you'll have a much better conversation. Sarah Vexter says, who's the jealous one? I used to be very jealous. Like, I talked about this in an old video titled Our Biggest Fight. I talked about this. I was very jealous in the beginning of our relationship because I just never thought that I would find somebody who would be faithful to me. And now time has proven that Nick is faithful and an amazing husband and that he loves me. And after we got married, I just started feeling so much more confident in our relationship. And like, I feel more confident today in our relationship than I ever have. That's not to say if a very attractive woman was like working with him or something and I like had to meet her, that's not to say that I wouldn't get jealous, because if you don't get jealous, then you really just, in my opinion, like, a little jealousy is normal and healthy. If you don't get any ounce of jealousy ever, then in my opinion, I don't think that's a good sign, girl. Ash Kirksey says, what is something you wish you had gotten to do more or enjoyed more of before getting married? Well, not really anything. I enjoyed everything before getting married. Like, I lived my life to the fullest. I dated a lot of different guys. I had my heart broken. I got cheated on. I did the single thing. I did the party thing. I did everything. I literally like did every experiment in life that you could think of. I lived my life. Like, by 24, I was ready to get married, and I do not miss being single. There were a lot of times when I was single and lonely and depressed and sad and heartbroken and just felt shitty. And now I have like a partner and someone to come home to every day and someone to spend my nights with and my hard days with. And it sounds so cheesy, but like, I cannot picture myself going back. Like, no, girl, no way. I don't want that life at all. I know that wasn't the question, but like, no. Like, I don't miss being single at all. Maybe unless like Jake Paul was like outside or something, that I would wish I was single. Just kidding. Oh, my timer is off and it didn't give me an alarm. Okay, so I'm gonna end it there. God, this video is probably gonna be so long. I hope that you guys, liked this video. If you did, comment below and definitely leave it a thumbs up, because if this is something you guys want me to do once a month or every other week, I would be happy to do it, because these are questions that I would love to see another YouTuber answer, because marriage is such a hot topic. Like, we all need all the advice and other people's points of view that we can get. So I enjoyed filming this, and I felt like really in my element filming this, and I felt really like, I feel really good about this video. So, I completely forgot to tell you guys that Hillary, my friend Hillary Alex, has a YouTube channel, and she's doing this video as well on her channel. Well, hers is more about sex because she's not currently married. She was married, and she has videos about her divorce and everything, and those are really interesting, good videos that you guys should check out. But she did a sex Q&A on her channel, so you guys have to go check that out because she's releasing hers today as well. I'll leave the link below to her channel. But that's gonna be it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, and I will see you guys in my next video.